Hello, it's Paul Rayburn. Just providing a bit of an update. I posted last week about a caution on filtering by price, and so here was sort of the intro to that post. And I know that most people got it, but there were a few skeptics, and I'd like to do a better job explaining it. I promised I would provide an update, so that's what I'm going to do here in this upcoming segment. Okay, so here's my new data set. Again, I've brought in pretty much a very large data set, and I'm going to filter this down, but I wanted to start with this. So the subject property is an executive sort of Lakeview property, but I'm going to focus on this market here. Right now, things are fairly stable, so I think we're not going to see the real issue then when markets are shifting significantly. So we want to be prepared for doing analysis when the market is shifting significantly. So I'm going to go back and focus on that time period in here because that's the period that prior one had focused on. So we'll sort of keep things much the same. So here was that initial post, and here was sort of the real meat of the graphic. So we could see if we filtered by a narrow margin. So if folks were thinking, well, a buyer's range is going to be, let's say, between 1.1 and 900,000 or something like that, then maybe we should filter our data to that. Now, it's pretty extreme going across a fairly long period of time here. But so anyways, what that resulted in was if you just do that, you end up with a trend line like that. So this started because somebody had shared a post talking about how they do market condition adjustments, and it could just see by looking at their data, it looked much like this, very clipped off the top, clipped out the bottom, not a normal distribution. So it's fairly obvious that it had been filtered down by price. So here's one that was here's one where I took this data and filtered it down with some applying some square footage parameters to it and filtered down again. Anyways, you can read through that post. So what I'm going to do is I'm just basically going to crop the data into, this time zone here. Basically, I'm going to go from January, like maybe summer, just to avoid this early pandemic shift there, and sort of focus on that trend there. I'm going to zoom in on that and create a new data set, filter and get rid of all this stuff. And we'll just go back and focus on that. So that is here. Okay, so there's that data. This is all those sales again. I just put them all into one lump data set here called all sales for that period from July 2020 through till basically end of January 2022 before we had started to see any significant shifts. So we basically have a fairly linear trend there, and that's just to sort of keep this analysis a little cleaner and simpler for demonstration discussion purposes. So then, if we said our subject was about 1,000,002 or so in there, then we might sort of filter that down to 1,000,000. If we're talking about focusing on competitive sales with a subject, or what buyers in that market might be looking at in terms of price. So maybe if they're 1.2, maybe 1.5. A million, from 1,000,000 to 1.5. So let's do that. And I already have that saved here. So filtered by price. And I'm just going to have to zoom that in. Okay, so before I go there, I just want to, okay, so I need to add this in to get some sort of a price index in here showing this rate of change, dollars per day or percentage or whatever. But for now, I can just do it by math. 1,534 is the average of that trend, and 1,081 was the beginning. So that's about a 42% increase over this period. Okay, I thought this would be a good place to add this in here. So this is the HPI benchmark pricing from our local realtors association. So this is this central Okanagan here is the overall market, and then these are sub-markets from this list here. So you can see there's a lot of markets, and my subject is in this sort of higher price range, as you'll see when you look at the numbers. But this is the actual neighborhood, but you can see that I'm in a higher priced end of that neighborhood. So that's why I'm using these data sets here, but you can see how that is also the smallest market, and it's more, less consistency. So, why we might look to other models to do that. So, yeah, we'll see how this all rolls out in the rest of the video, looking at all the data. Okay, so there was all that data cropped from about 1.5, from about, I went from 1.1 to about just under 1.5. So now we can see that. Okay, so now we got the filtered data down there here. So that is 1,303,000, sorry, like 1,260,40 to 1,304,000. And that's about a 3% increase now. So we went from a 40% increase just by filtering that price down to a 3% increase. So, okay, it's obviously pretty extreme, but you can get the picture of what's going on there when you're filtering by price. So now this is a tighter time frame. We're not looking over, a longer time frame. So again, that's, it'd be the similar thing if I focused in here. I could narrow that down a little bit. I can do that. Okay, so now it's just 1 year, January 2021 to, just past January 2022. And again, that's 1310, and that was, just turn that off here so I can get that, 1275. So that's about 3% still over that period. Obviously this filtering by price has really skewed that data. Okay, and I forgot to add this part in here. So this is what really is the part that actually counts. So let me flip over back to the screen. So I went back in, and this was the data set initially filtered by price, and now is filtered down by those same parameters that we used on this, subsequent search, including all the data. So now you can see that what we've got here is an increase from 1,190,000 to 1,004,000. So that's about a 18% increase, where we initially had like a 40% increase. So this is probably skewed because we've lost some of those sales that would have been up in here and possibly down in here. So the result of filtering first by price and then by parameters has skewed the trend line. So I would argue that this is not a valid trend line. Now the initial one that was not filtered by price was okay. Okay, so that was 15, like 1.534 into 1081 into 1.1534. So that's about 42%. And if you want to look at this, okay, so we've got some outliers. So maybe these are pulling the data a little bit, but let's look at this on a log scale just quickly here. Let's put the y-axis on a log scale. So now that helps to give you a little better feel for what's going on there. So, well, these are kind of outliers. Don't look as bad when you look at it in that perspective. So, of course, we could go in and filter this down, which we'll do in the next step here. We'll filter down from this data set using the parameters of the physical characteristics before, and we shouldn't need to, but we can at that point in time remove outliers by price. Now the initial one that was only by price would also have some issues in terms of, compositional shift, but at least you could prove those. Here, you simply filtered by price, and you have no idea what you actually removed on these ends of the scale. So that's the real deal right there. So we went from 42% down to 18%, and we can't explain it other than I can explain that if you filtered just by price, you've probably skewed your market data, your market condition trends. So, okay, so now filtering down, to a more conforming data set here. I filtered down to 2010 to 2018 year built, 3,000 to 4,000 square feet, 0.15 to 0.3 acres. So I filtered down these parameters. And now here's the data set, and that's back to 16, like 1,000,006 and 1,127. So that's, again, we're back down to about a 42% increase. Now I've got some outliers back in here. I don't know what those are going to do to the data. I mean, I could just arbitrarily move them, or I could just go in and, I can double check to see what those are. Again, this is just sort of a demonstration data set. So just to get that point across about what happens when we filter by price rather than by parameters before making a price market condition trend. So now that we've got a market condition trend, or do we agree with the linear? Do you want to look at a best fit line? I know this has been sort of sitting in the back there, and I think I can throw a 3-month rolling in there. It's gonna be pretty erratic, okay, well, again, it's not too bad. We've got a fairly decently conforming data set here. Again, we chose that period that's on a fairly steady trend. There's not a lot of really obvious seasonal or market shift things going on in here. Maybe a little bit. So would a linear trend make sense? Would we follow maybe the better fit smooth lines? Maybe you want to put a third order polynomial in there. So we can change that linear trend line now to a polynomial. Take your pick, first, second, third. But again, third looks like it fits it, but what's it actually fitting? So it's being pulled up by this stuff here at the back. Maybe we should check that out and clean that up. So anyways, I hope I got that point across. Yeah, so then going back to the whole market segment, back to the current assignment and current. So then then we've got to make some decisions about how far back we need to go. Well, this is my subject market in here. So I got some work to do, and those outliers that we're pulling up that back end back here, those are these ones here. So this is still being now filtered down rather than by all the market, but by those parameters that I put in here. So that's why you're seeing less than when I first presented that data. So anyways, but again, the concept was focusing on that market condition and trend adjustment, and why we should focus on other parameters when we're doing our search. And it doesn't hurt to bring in all the data and work it down. So, hey, if you don't have data, well, I really, I can only sort of advocate for you to try and help you get better data somehow, or maybe help you, find a way to, create your own database that is, more fortified, I guess, or enhanced. So anyways, so again, thanks for tuning in, and any questions, if you'd like to reach out and learn more, or if you've still got some concerns or ideas or other things that we can look at, check out the other videos that maybe explain a little bit more about, some of the tools that we've got in here. Things like I could tune in here, I could select this data, copy that to my clipboard, and then I can paste those. It picks out the MLS numbers. I can paste those into my MLS and search those. I can quickly do a quick check to see if there's something about those outliers that is substantially different than the rest of my market, or maybe there's some inaccurate information and data. So again, that's the idea. Thanks again. Okay, have a great day.